All right, so let's hop into this. So we're going to go ahead and use Gauss-Jordan elimination, which that is going to give us row reduced. First step, we need to go ahead and put it into a matrix. I'm going to make this a little smaller, straighten it out, put that in the corner. There we go. Okay, so building my matrix, we have 1, -1, 1, and 0, -1, 2, -3, -5, 2, -3, 5, and 8. Just pulled those coefficients. So our goal, first off, is we need to get it into row echelon and then moved it into a reduced row echelon. So we want to get the leading ones by themselves and then work backwards to get the rest of the zeros. So first step with this problem is I see that I have a 1, and that's my leading term in my top row. So that's R1, R2, and R3. It's always going to be in order. I need to now eliminate that -1 in R2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, let me build my next set of brackets a little bigger. It's hard because this is like a horizontal slide, so I'm going to try to make it as organized as possible for you guys, but I typically do this all over my whiteboard. So next time we have class, you guys will see it on the whiteboard in a little more organized way. But I encourage you guys to go straight down your paper rather than side by side like I have to do. But anyway, so we're going to take row 1 and add it to row 2. And that's going to become the new row 2. So nothing is changing in our row 1. We're not doing anything to it. And nothing's changing in our row 3. We work with one row at a time. Our row 2, if you take this row 1 and row 2 at the beginning and add them together, 1 plus -1 is 0. -1 plus 2 is a 1. 1 plus a -3 is a -2. And 0 plus -5 is -5. So we have now simplified that one row, and it's just affecting row number 2. We didn't do anything to 1 or 3. And now if you look at that, we have a 1 as our leading coefficient. So now we need to go ahead and deal with our row 3. There's going to be a couple things we need to do to it, but the first step that I see is that we need to take care of this 2. We want to go outside in. So this 2, how can I eliminate it? Well, the only other variable I can work with is that row 1. So what do I need to multiply my row 1 by to cancel it out with my row 2? Well, I need to go -2R1 plus R2. Sorry, R3, and that's going to go into my R3. So just a teeny bit of scratch work. I'm just going to say this is -2, 2, -2, and 0. That's my -2R1. So when I go ahead, and I should probably do a solid line. There we go. When I go ahead and add it to my row 3, I see what I'm adding. So row 1 and row 2 did not change in this step, so we're going to keep them as -1, -1, -1, and 0. 0, 1, -2, and -5. And then the row 3 is what we did change. That was -2, row 1, plus row 3 to give us our new row 3. So looking at the adding, 2 plus -2 is 0. Then -3 plus 2 is a -1. Then 5 plus -2 is a 3. And then 8 plus 0 is 8. So I took those two, added them together, and that became our new row 3. Okay, now, before we go to the next step, let's figure out what we need to do. We have now gotten this to be a 1 with all zeros underneath it. This is a 1, but we need to get that -1 in row 3 to become a 0. How do we do that? Well, If we add row 2 and row 3 together and make that our new row 3, that will satisfy it. So let's go ahead and do that. So row 1 doesn't change. I take care of everything rewriting it before I even look at what I'm changing, just so that I don't try to do too much at once. So now I'm going to do row 2 plus row 3, and that becomes my new row 3. So 0 plus 0, well, that's 0. Negative 1 plus 1, that's 0. And then negative 2 plus 3, that's 1. And negative 5 and 8, that is a 3. So if you look at it, now it is in triangular form. So we have hit it into echelon form, but we now need to do it into reduced, which if you were looking at this as a system of equation, you would now take that 1 equals 3 and work with it up. And that's what we're going to do. So I hope you didn't doubt me when I said this was going to take a long time. These problems do take a while. I am also trying to be very detailed for you guys. So now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and in order to get rid of that negative 2, we need to multiply our row 3 by a 2. So, oops, don't know what I did there. There we go. 2 row 3 plus row 2, that's going to be my new row 2. Because 2 times 1 is going to cancel out with that negative 2. So hopefully you guys are seeing these steps. My row 1 has not changed. And I'm not working with my row 3. I'm not changing it. The only thing I'm changing in this case is my row 2. So now we're looking at 2 row 3 plus row 2. So that gives me, the only thing that's going to change is in my row 3, it's going to become a 2 and a 6. It's both zeros. So adding it together, it's still 0, 1. Now negative 2 plus 2 is 0. And negative 5 plus 6 is a 1. And now my second row is done. My last one is my first. I'm going to have to take 2 steps with that one. So what I'm going to do to my first row is I'm going to work on that middle piece. I need to make this a 0, and then my last step will be making this a 0. So how do I get this negative 1? Let me erase that. How do I get that negative 1 to become 0? Well, I add row 2 and row 1 together. So my row 2 I'm not changing. My row 3 I'm not changing. But my row 1, I am doing row 2 plus row 1 equals my row 1. So adding them together, I get 1, a 0, a 1, and a 1. And now we can see we have one final step, and that one final step is getting rid of this 1. So how am I going to do that? Well, I need to use row 3, because that's the only other row that has a variable sitting in there. So I am working with row 1. So I'm just going to rewrite my row 2 and row 3. 0, 1, 0, 1. 0, 0, 1, 3. Now, what I need to do is I need to go ahead and do row 3 plus actually I'll do a negative row 3 plus row 1, because that right there will then get rid of my that 1. So that changes this to a 1, a 0, a 0, and a negative 2 on that step. And now if you guys look, I have that triangle, but I also have zeros on everything else. So this is row reduced, and my ordered pair is negative 2, 1, and 3. Very, very long. It is almost 10 minutes, but I wanted to take it through really slowly since this is your first one.